On the 29th of November, 6 Sri Lankan artefacts looted by the Dutch during the colonial era were physically returned to the island at the Bandaranaike International Airport in Katunaika. These artefacts that were under the custody of the Dutch for over 200 years included Luke Tisava's cannon, a ceremonial sword, and a Sinhalese knife. Following the arrival of these artefacts, they were safely transported to the National Museum in Colombo. This morning, an exhibition themed Lost Heritage Reclaimed, organised by the Ministry of Buddha Sasana and the Cultural Affairs National Museum Department to showcase these 6 artefacts to the public, commenced at the National Museum in Colombo. The event was attended by President's Chief of Staff Sagala Ratnayaka, Minister of Buddha Sasana and Cultural Affairs Vidura Wickramanayaka, Ambassador for International Cultural Cooperation at the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs Davy van der Woerd, and Dutch Ambassador in Colombo Bonnie Horbach. According to the President's Media Division, these artefacts will be on public display at the museum from today until further notice.
According to Lord Buddha, no matter you win thousands of battles, if you cannot win over yourself, you may not see the light. The government of Netherlands has seen the light, which has been looted from Sri Lanka 3 centuries ago, has been returned to Sri Lanka. You need a lot of guts to do that. The other countries are still thinking over it. We really appreciate and admire the courage you had to return these objects back to us. This is our pride. We have to build upon this, not only the country, but also to foster and strengthen the relations between Netherlands and Sri Lanka.
Restitution is about repairing historical injustice and strengthening these bonds. The importance of restitution of colonial objects hinges on 2 principles. Firstly, it entails the recognition of past historical injustices that were done to the indigenous population of colonial territories, when cultural heritage objects were taken against their will. Injustices that will continue as long as these objects remain in the possession of Dutch museums against the will of countries of origin. Secondly, it entails our readiness to rectify these historical injustices. This is a key principle of our Dutch policy on dealing with colonial collections now. And it is an acknowledgement that the appropriation of many cultural, historical and religious objects looted from colonial territories and the display of these in Dutch museums as if belonging to the Dutch can no longer hold.
Meanwhile, speaking to AdaDerana's English News, the Ambassador for International Cultural Cooperation at the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Davy van der Woerd, commented on the level of cultural support the Netherlands can extend to Sri Lanka.
What more measures will be initiated by the Dutch government in order to improve cultural ties with Sri Lanka?
So we have a very good cooperation where we share expertise, for example, on our international heritage. There are different heritage objects also in Sri Lanka, but also there's churches, there are different buildings that we have also been cooperating together in the past. So we intend to continue to do so. But we also think that there is a possibility to continue provenance research on other objects, to share museum expertise, and to also have, for example, universities work together, and museums are also going to continue to see what kind of things they can do together, for example, also in the field of having debates about this process.
Are there any projects to be initiated in the near future in terms of building cultural cooperation?
Yes, our embassy of the Netherlands here in Sri Lanka is very active and they have a lot of plans already lined up. So they are intending to do a series of talks. They are also actually working in other fields, so not only in heritage but also in dance, in design. So there is many other sectors, contemporary art, that we are planning to work in.
At the same time, the Sri Lankan government is looking at promoting tourism, and cultural tourism is one of the main aspects. How can the Dutch support in this?
We as countries are all facing the same issues where we have monuments of a bygone era and we still want to keep them interesting for a public to visit, because it is good for tourism and it is also to the interest of the general public. So we are really interested in sharing expertise with Sri Lanka on these issues, and you see that also the Sri Lankan side has a lot of experience where we can learn from, and the Dutch experts are also intending to come to Sri Lanka in the future to work together on this. So we will do courses, we will do missions, we will have trainings together. Things like that is what we plan to do.
And at the same time, are there more artifacts of Sri Lanka, and are there any plans to return those artifacts back to Sri Lanka?
Yes, there are more artifacts from Sri Lanka in the Netherlands, and what we plan to do is to continue our provenance research on these objects together with Sri Lanka. It is up to the Sri Lankan government to decide which objects they would like to see returned, but we intend to work together so that we can at least research the provenance of the different objects, and we can also share those researches amongst academia, amongst the universities, and also the museums intend to continue to work together.